Hello and welcome back to the Coastal Edge Consulting channel. I want to start today with a conversation that I've been having again and again with colleagues over the past few months as I've been pursuing a shift towards independent consulting work. There are many who are leadership consultants, change practitioners, maybe they're OD professionals, strategists, whatever the case. People with real experience. They've got strong reputations and very deep expertise, but they have stories that keep sounding the same. For example, I keep hearing, things have been really quiet lately, or I haven't landed a contract in months. Honestly, I'm not making any money right now. Ouch. Those statements have been tough to hear as I've been navigating my own change. And I'm assuming I'm not alone. But underneath those comments is something else I keep hearing. And it's less about clients and more about fear. A lot of independent consultants are also asking themselves if the consulting market is just oversaturated now, and if everyone is becoming a consultant. I worry about that myself. I am worried that I may have entered the industry at the worst possible time. And if so, what is happening out there? So in today's video, I'm going to speak to those who are navigating the independent consulting market and the decision makers who are hiring them. But before we dive in, if you like this type of video, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button and the notification bell to help me grow my channel. Your support is immensely appreciated. Now let's get into it. After doing some investigating, I realize now that my fears about the consulting industry didn't come out of nowhere. Because at the same time that organizations are pulling back on permanent hiring, more and more highly skilled professionals are moving into independent consulting. Not necessarily because they wanted to, but like me, they needed to stay employed. We need that next paycheck. When vacant jobs and budgets start to tighten, which is the situation where I live here in British Columbia, particularly in government organizations, healthcare, and other public sector industries, consulting becomes one of the only paths to continued income. So yes, it feels like the independent consulting space has gotten noisier and more competitive, more crowded over the past year. And that's because it really has. However, there's one key difference that I want to focus on, and that is that there is still a demand for consulting services. The thing that has actually increased is the supply of consultants. And when supply grows faster than demand, even experienced and credible people start to feel invisible. They start to feel the struggle. That doesn't mean they've lost their value, not by any means. It means the market has changed. So if you're struggling to land clients right now, it's important to understand that this isn't just about competition. It's about how companies are making decisions in a very different and changing environment. Clients today are becoming more cautious, and they're under pressure themselves. Budgets are being scrutinized, and every external dollar has to be justified. They're not asking who's the smartest. They're on the hunt for someone who can help them move things forward swiftly, clearly, and without any major mishaps. That shift alone has changed the game for independent consultants. Now let's also layer in the piece that makes this moment genuinely different from past downturns. AI. Of course, it keeps coming back to AI. As AI becomes embedded in everyday work, a lot of what used to count as knowledge work is no longer scarce. AI can synthesize information. It can generate frameworks. It can draft strategies and plans and make recommendations. So if your consulting value proposition is primarily based on knowing things, even very valuable things, the perceived value of that knowledge has actually dropped. Not to zero, that's not what I'm saying, but enough to change buying behavior. Those skills just aren't going to help consultants land work anymore. Those are now secondary skills. Because as AI reshapes knowledge jobs, more and more people are going to lose traditional roles. And more people will enter independent consulting as a fallback. Which means the supply of consultants is likely to keep on growing. So, I know that sounds like bad news, but there is something that can distinguish those who will get clients and those who won't. AI won't affect all consultants equally. It will eliminate replaceable consulting first. So what I mean by that is replaceable consulting is those whose work is broad and abstract. It's those who are more advisory without hardcore and clear delivery. It's hard to explain in concrete terms, but those consultants will sound like 10 other profiles a client has already seen. And in a crowded AI-augmented market, that kind of work struggles. Not because it isn't thoughtful, but because clients don't know how to justify it. How will it be measured in terms of value? The good news is that there are things AI can't do, and this is critical. AI can't navigate human systems. AI can suggest a strategy, sure, but it can't manage the resistance. AI can recommend change, but it can't read the room. AI can also generate options, but it can't take responsibility when things get messy. It's a real paradox as AI accelerates decision-making, but the human side of implementation becomes harder, not easier. I'm talking about more change, less time, higher stakes, and definitely more fatigue. That's where independent consulting still really matters. That's where consultants can have some leverage. The nature of what consultants can offer has to shift. This is why so many people feel stuck right now. A lot of independent consultants that I've talked to entered the market with strong experience and expertise, but they don't have a clearly defined and intentional offer. They didn't plan to become consultants. They didn't have the time to test the demand first. They didn't narrow their focus. Everybody who's going into this world right now, they're figuring it out in real time, often under financial stress. That doesn't make them unqualified, not by any stretch of the imagination. But it does mean they're entering a market that now rewards clarity over credibility, specificity over breadth, outcomes over insight, implementation over advice. So if you're struggling to land clients, the most useful questions aren't about your worth, they're about positioning. So here are a few things to think about as you rethink your work. Think about, can a client quickly understand the problem that you can solve? Can they see what will be different if they hire you? Can they explain your value to their boss in one sentence? Because when markets tighten, buyers aren't going to experiment. They default to what feels safest, clearest, and definitely easiest to defend. So what does the future of independent consulting actually look like in an AI-driven world? Well, it's not going to disappear, but generalist, advisory-only work becomes harder to sustain. Consultants who help organizations absorb change, not just design it, they will still remain very valuable. That includes work like translating AI into real operating practices, supporting adoption and behavior change, and definitely trust. You can help leaders make decisions with incomplete information. You can help navigate ethics, power, and human impact. Building the capacity instead of dependency. In other words, the future belongs to consultants who sit at the intersection of people, systems, and accountability. So yes, it will continue to become harder to land clients for many people, but not because consulting is obsolete, at least that's not what the research is showing, but because AI has raised the baseline, and the market is no longer forgiving of vague value. Independent consulting isn't broken. I repeat, it's not broken, it's just crowded. And in crowded markets, replaceable work struggles while clearly differentiated work still finds demand. If you're already in consulting and feeling discouraged, this isn't a signal to quit. It's a signal to sit down and reassess. Not your worth, but your approach. What do you need to change to stay viable? And if you're thinking about moving into independent consulting because your job disappeared or feels uncertain, just like mine did, the most important question isn't whether you should be a consultant. It's who specifically needs what I know right now, and why would they choose me over AI or someone else? That question is harder than updating a resume. It's not necessarily clear, but it's the one that determines whether consulting becomes sustainable in the years ahead or whether it won't. The real conversation we need to have isn't whether independent consulting is dying. We've already made that clear. It's not at this point. Instead, we should ask ourselves, are we willing to let go of the parts of consulting that AI is making vulnerable and intentionally build the parts that are becoming increasingly necessary? According to everything that I read, independent consulting won't disappear, but it will expose weaknesses. Those who adapt thoughtfully, they won't just survive, they'll actually become even more valuable. I hope you found this content helpful. And if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. Or just share the video with a consultant you might know who is experiencing these challenges. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to keep on striving. Until next time, bye-bye.